Welcome back to what feels like the 1980s, or so I thought. They Clone Tyrone is the most recent Netflix original starring Jamie Foxx as Slick, John Boyega as Fontaine, and Teyana Paris as Yo-Yo, and directed by Juel Taylor. The movie itself is categorized as an action comedy mystery, but it also fits into the black exploitation genre of films. As you guys know, I like to break my movie reviews down into three different parts: the plot, the performances, and the soundtrack. So let's get into it. Starting off with the plot. This film wastes absolutely no time getting to the main reason we are here, and that's for the cloning. At first glance, you get a bit of a Groundhog's Day vibe from the film, but that only lasts for a few moments because once the mystique starts to build and the layers of the film start to get peeled back, you quickly realize this ain't your Groundhog's Day type of film. The movie itself is surprisingly well paced. It feeds you bits and pieces of the story when you need it, while not relying heavily on the action to move the narrative along, shall we say. But at the end of the day, the plot itself wasn't anything special, but it worked for the type of story that they were trying to tell here. Plus, there's not really much you can do with cloning, government cloning, conspiracy theories, and different things within that genre or nature of ideas that we haven't seen in the history of film or conspiracy films themselves. Now, let's move forward and talk about the performances, and they were an absolute 10 out of 10. This is where the movie really shines, where it's really where the movie takes off. Jamie Foxx, John Boyega, and Teyana Paris, they looked like they were having a blast. So much fun filming this movie. And the standout character, in my opinion, was Teyana Paris. Her Yo-Yo character was the best part of this trio. She as an actor was the comedic anchor to the film, and you can just tell she was loving every single bit of it. Her character was the balance between Fontaine's reckless nature and Slick's selfish nature. The deeper we dug, the deeper we got into her character, the more I personally started to think the film was more about her and not Slick or Fontaine. Even at this point in my review, I'm still unsure as to how I want to feel about this, but I'd say that Yo-Yo as a character had the most complexity as a character, and she had the most growth by the end of the film. Now, John Boyega and Jamie Foxx, they were not any slouches in this film, and they both had good roles, good writing, and they both did excellent in this film. The chemistry, the subtleties between the two were absolutely hilarious when you got both of them on the screen together. They really had me bellow laughing at a few things. Fontaine as a character had the most emotional growth out of the two though, especially when it came down to the need for his mother, and you will see a little bit more of that once you get deeper into this film. I thought he did an absolute fantastic job at showing the full range of emotions for the ups and downs that he had to go through, and it really brought a bit of weight to his character. And Jamie Foxx himself, there's not really much you can say about him as an actor. He is phenomenal at what he does, and he absolutely killed this role. But really, what more can you ask for from one of the best actors in Hollywood today? Hell, they even managed to sneak Kiefer Sutherland into this, which was absolutely a surprise to me, because going into this film, I never really looked at the cast outside of the three main ones that we saw in the trailers. So when he showed up on screen, it was definitely a huge surprise for me. But the cast overall did a really good job throughout the film. The chemistry, the comedic timing just felt natural. And I'd personally be stoked to see a blooper reel from this film. So hopefully we get something like that as we go forward through the year at some point. Now let's get into the final part of this review, and that is going to be the soundtrack. And like I said from the very beginning of this video, welcome back to what feels like the 1980s. The soundtrack feels like it was deeply rooted into that era of music, from artists like Albie Shaw, Diana Ross, to Jamie Foxx and Teyana Paris making their own elevated music that we see in pretty much all the trailers for this film so far. And on top of that, they even got Erykah Badu to remix her 1997 hit Better Call Tyrone just for this movie, and they retitled it ironically Who Cloned Tyrone, and it was absolute brilliant. The soundtrack of the film really does set the tone of the movie as a whole, And music in films itself tells a story in its own right. It sets the tone, it sets the mood, it sets the pacing and direction for each scene to take and tell its own story. So whoever put this soundtrack together really hit the nail on the head with capturing the late 80s and early 90s feel of music. Overall, the film was a solid 8 out of 10 for what it was. But the caveat to that is that the film itself won't appeal to everybody because it's centered in a genre that's not really widespread, and that's the neo blaxploitation type of films. But I do hope people will give it a shot, if not for the amazing cast alone, but just a different take, a view into different style of filmmaking. But that's it for the video, guys. My name's Lincoln. This has been an RPG show. Until next time, guys, like, comment, sub, and I'm out. Peace.